Back. We are back this time, NL East champs. Another episode, Chef's Kiss. I'm here with my co-worker, Luke Arcaini. Luke Arcaini writes for Crossing Broad. He covers all the Phillies stuff. I make some of the Phillies videos, so me and Luke are now officially co-workers. What's up, Luke?
Co-workers, baby. What's going on, man? How are you?
Not too good, dude. Where'd you go last night? You got the gear already. Did you go last night or did you go today?
No, I got a text today. I was at work this morning, and my he had a big text into our family group chat. He was like, "Who wants a shirt?" I was like, "Please get me one." I don't know where he found them, Dick somewhere, but yeah, we got them already.
I saw the store outside the stadium has got some sweet stuff
yeah.
already. They had that black hat with like the little
I did.
like one of those golf hats you saw.
The hat was awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a red October hat. That's something I'm gonna target here in the next coming days. But yeah, dude, NL East champs. How exciting is that?
Yeah, man, it's awesome. I was talking about it last night. It's cool for people to really experience this division being won, because I think getting into the playoffs is one thing. Like, if you get into the playoffs, especially when you play for a historically losing franchise like the Phillies, that's one thing to celebrate. But winning the East is awesome. I mean, especially when the Braves were what, 5 in a row, 6 in a row, these last years. So it's really awesome to see a team that really achieved their first goal, because obviously the big goal is to always win the World Series. That's your goal going into every season. But they said from day one, they said our first goal this year is to win the NL East. So that is officially checked off. Now you hope they get home field advantage, which I believe a win tonight and a Brewers loss should set them up for that. And then you hope you get the 1 seed, although I don't hate the path as the 2 seed. I'll say that. I'm not really opposed to either. Obviously, if we went to the NLCS with the Dodgers, I would love the home field, but I don't hate the path as the 2 seed right now as well.
Okay. Yeah, I think the cross country from LA to Philly, I mean, it just is going to take somewhat of a toll, right? I mean, I understand there's, a lot of time for recovery and stuff like that, but just going across country is going to be a lot. But again, you have that cool storyline, West Coast, East Coast. And that's the best of the best right there, dude. Number 1 and number 2, the
Exactly.
Goliaths going head to head, and that's what you want to see. But yeah, dude, really exciting from last night. What was your some of your favorite stuff that you saw?
I mean, we can start about all the party stuff. I loved Bryson Stott walking around in a UNLV football helmet. I thought that was kind of funny. Those guys just party, man. They can throw a party. This new mix that they have now with this big DJ matchup with the local guys, it's really an awesome mix. I don't know if you really got to listen at all, but these guys have killed it. It's a really awesome mix. They've been working with Garrett Stubbs for a while. So I definitely wanted to hand those guys a shout out. I believe it's the Armin Tani brothers. I believe that's how you say it. So yeah, it was a really awesome mix. And just to see the guys party, I think every time they really party, and now it's just something just flicks where it's like regular season. And even though the regular season's not done, I think it's kind of like we are here in Red October. We're only a few days away. I believe if they do get the home field, I believe the first game would be October 5th. I think it's a Saturday. So we're about 2 weeks out. So it is inching closer and closer every day.
And now the hard part is going to be just waiting for
it
right?
sucks, man. It sucks so bad.
I already was telling my wife, I was like, hey, if you want to watch like a movie tonight, like we can absolutely do that.
I got nothing to do now. I got nothing to do for the next week.
Yeah. I'm like, baby, it's all you. We could watch a movie. Yeah, Luke, I mean, one of these things that I was thinking about, how some of the fan bases, when they went through that rough stretch in, after the All-Star break and, this team sucks and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, you can't be so nearsighted because this is how the season plays out, right? They dominated early. The storyline, well, they played nobody. They were beating up on nobodies. Well, that's what you're supposed to do. Then they have that little rough stretch. Then they come back. I think one thing that they haven't got credited for, which I think the Dodgers did a good job as well, as playing through injury, and
Yeah.
having these guys kind of come up from Lehigh Valley, filling up spots, and still maintaining and keeping their head above water, all while we're inching closer and closer to the postseason. So I thought that was one of the things that the Phillies don't get a lot of credit for, is how well they managed all these injuries.
Yeah, for sure. There were 23 guys on the offense that had at least one at bat this year. Obviously, you only field 9 guys, so the fact that they had that many, that just kind of shows you what they dealt with. I mean, you can look at the top, right? Nick Castellanos, 157 games played, Schwarber 145, but then after that, it's Harper missed some time, Trey missed some time, Marsh missed some time, Real Muto missed time, right? Edmundo missed time, right? Like, just so many guys were out at one point, and it's just they really just fought through it. Weston Wilson, Cody Clemens, those type of guys that really have exceeded expectations whenever they get a shot. I mean, freaking Cal Stevenson and Buddy Kennedy. Like where did these guys come from? Buddy, right? Yeah, like where did some of these guys even come from? And that's really what's awesome about baseball for me is that, if you watch a basketball season or if you watch a football season, right? You have like 50 something guys on an NFL roster, and there's only a few guys that really get elevated from that practice squad, and most of them usually don't even end up getting in the game. So many guys were on the field this year at one point for the Phillies. A ton of different guys out of the bullpen that had meaningful innings for us, right? Like Jose Ruiz, where did he come from? Like, you know what I mean? Just guys like that.
Max Lazar.
Yeah, exactly. Like just these randoms that like just come up and threw meaningful innings or got meaningful hits. That's really the biggest part. Was you can look at a squad like Atlanta, and obviously I think their injuries were a little bit more severe, but it didn't seem like they had the guys that came up and just filled right in. They really had an issue this year with their lineup just not being deep enough. So one huge shout. Nah, I guess not. Just a really big shout out to those bench guys for us, because they could have crumbled, and there was a point where it looked like they were maybe headed that way. I never lost faith in them because I knew the team that they were, and I knew that's how baseball works. Like when the Phillies were playing at 131 win pace, I tried to warn everybody that it's not going to happen.
Statistically, that doesn't happen.
It does not happen. Like, it's awesome right now, and it's awesome to watch this team be 35 games or whatever they were over 500 in May and June. But, like, the sad reality is they're not going to finish with 135 wins. Like, it just doesn't happen. But now they'll probably finish around, I would say, the 97 mark.
Still over their total.
100%. And I will say it is wild that this is going to be the first year in a while that not one team in the league wins over 100 games, which is just a crazy stat. You would think this Dodgers team would have got there at some point, but just it was almost a weird year for baseball. There were a lot of just like middle of the pack teams, and I think that's definitely in the Phillies' favor.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's just, it does seem very special. You'll see, like, we saw the Guardians clinch. We saw the Yankees clinch. And we saw their celebrations, and that really got me excited. I just know, Phillies time's going to come. It's going to come. But, the overalls, the playlist, the dudes, having the same group of dudes there that, majority that it's been over the last 3 seasons is just like, I don't know, someone was talking about it today, and it's just like, there's something that you can't quantify about, like, the vibe or about the clubhouse, and those guys really personified like a team and like one heartbeat, and that's just like something that you can rally around and you can really just like pick up and feel, by just watching them. Yeah,
and that's something that I really honed in on when the whole Garrett Stubbs thing was happening with I think that was like July with Marchand. I was like I get it. Like if you look at their game top to bottom, Marchand might be a better player. But like I said so many times, and I had a lot of people that were mad at me, like vibes matter. Like I've been saying that forever, and like something about like you have to have good vibes in your clubhouse. You can go out and win 120 games. If the guys in the locker room don't like each other, you're not going to win in October. It's just, it's truly never happened. There's never been a team that has won the World Series and you've heard later in best things, just like weird clubhouse sort of thing. Like if you go back and you look at the teams that win the World Series, these clubhouses are just always together. And I mean, you have to be. You're spending 7 months in a row with the same people every single day. If you don't like the guys in the locker room, you're going to go nuts. Yeah. And I think one real big thing for me was when Reese left, because you sort of saw that the night that he came back, I don't care what Reese says, you can tell that he misses it.
Sure.
And it doesn't matter what he's doing with the Brewers. You can tell that deep down he misses this a little bit. So I just really think that having that sort of team mentality is really big. It's really big in baseball. And I think that's been one of the reasons that they've been so successful the last few years.
Yeah, and I agree with that too. I mean, you don't got to spend every waking moment, outside of the field together. But
yeah.
I mean, they go to Xfinity, they party, especially the young guys, the single ones.
They're holding their 6-month-old babies up like Simba at Xfinity Live. Like, what are we doing here?
Michael Jackson moves, crazy. Luke, I wanted to talk about, because obviously we're heading into the postseason now. It is all good. We're very much believers in Phillies. We agree on a lot of stuff. I think one of the only things we disagree on, I think, is Rojas. We said that before. But strengths and weaknesses going into the postseason. Here's the way that I see it, Luke. Not worried about the staff very much.
No.
You got starting pitching, I think is very solid. 1, 2, 3, 4 starting pitchers that you can rely on. Those are your horses that can carry you through the postseason. The bullpen has been, they got their shit together. There was a time where Jose Alvarado was a little erratic, and he's kind of honed that in. Jeff Hoffman, still trust him with my life.
There's not many people on this earth that I trust more than Jeff Hoffman. That's where it's gotten to.
Dude, the end of the game when he gives the snap.
Oh, dude, they need to extend him right now. Like, you cannot let that guy walk out of this team.
Yeah, and there's no way he wants to go. You saw his quote. He was like, I've been dreaming about this, getting back to Red October. So, again, another integral part of that bullpen. But the biggest thing, and I think we've probably talked about this before, is it's the issue that happened last season. It's your all-stars. It's your 1 through 4, your 1 through 5 hitters going silent during the games that matter most. Not saying that's going to be the storyline this postseason, because last year, but that would be my biggest concern, is those hitters that you're paying $20 to $30 million a year going cold at the most inopportune times. That's how I see the word. If anything goes wrong, it's going to be because of that.
Yeah. And I agree. But at the same time, I can't harp on years past. And I get it. And it's very hard to. Listen, 2022 was a complete success, like win or lose in the World Series. It was an absolute 100% success. Last year was not. And I think everybody knows that after going back into the playoffs, into the NLCS, and dropping 2 games at home in game 6 and 7. Like that is a failure. And I would say every game up to that and the run they had up to that was a success. But those last 2 games were an absolute failure. And something about this season, I feel like the offense will get it done. I think when you get to October, I think you've seen how good Bryce Harper can be, right? He genuinely turns into the best hitter in the league once the calendar hits October. Guys like Nick Castellanos has had one of his best seasons as a Philly. I really trust him right now at the plate. He has turned into a guy over the last 2 months that if the Phillies need a big hit, there's a point where I want Nick Castellanos up there right now. Kyle Schwarber, everybody knows who Kyle Schwarber is. Even in the games last year where this offense went cold, Kyle Schwarber was still at the front of the lineup, right? Mm-hmm. JT Realmuto has been a guy where he may not have the best stats in the playoffs, but he still gets some really big hits, right? Bryson Stott.
And his defense.
Exactly. And he's still one of the best behind the plate in the league. The big X factor for me is 100% Alec Bohm. Will you get April to July Bohm? Because if you get that, then this team, honest to God, if you get April to July Bohm with the lineup they have right now, this team should cruise to a World Series. Mm-hmm. And I think that sounds a little crazy when I say it, but I just think if you put that guy in there in the cleanup spot with runners in scoring position, right? You know Schwarber's going to get on. You know Trey's going to be on in the playoffs. You know Harper's going to be on. But those guys, once they're on, you have to get them in. And I think that was sort of their issue this season at times when Bohm either wasn't in the lineup or he was in a slump. And last playoffs is they can't capitalize with runners in scoring position. And I feel really good about Bohm. He's looked really good the last few weeks. So I would really say that's the biggest X factor for me. Listen, there's not a rotation in this league that I would want more than the Phillies right now. They have the best starting rotation in baseball based on a 4-game series, right? If you go 1, 2, 3, 4, there's not a team that will beat you in matchups. There might be a one that has maybe a preferred 1, 2. I don't even know if that's the case, honestly. But there's not a rotation that I would want. Other than Cleveland, there's probably not another bullpen, I would say. I mean, I think from top to bottom, right? Strahm, Hoffman, Estevez, Ruiz, Alvarado, Kerkering. Like, that's a nasty 6. So, really, for me, I mean, it's obviously the offense. Because once you get to October, you have to pitch. But you can get away with a bit of some shaky pitching. If your bats go cold, you're done. So if this offense performs to how they can, I really think this team can cruise. And I know we're going to get there eventually, but this best matchup for the Phillies, this is going to sound absolutely bizarre. And I've said this and people have called me a nut job for this. I genuinely believe that their best matchup is the Dodgers. And it sounds nuts, but I just don't think the Dodgers can pitch. They don't have pitching. They no longer have Glass now, right? And obviously, I think once Shohei finally sniffs playoff baseball, I think that's going to be a sight to see. I think that's really going to be awesome. But I think this Phillies pitching staff matches up really well against the Dodgers, which is a really good sign. Like, I would rather play the Dodgers than the Diamondbacks. And that sounds absolutely bizarre. But I can't face this Diamondbacks team again in the playoffs. Yeah. I just can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great storyline there, obviously, and we would, see them again.
I also don't think they're as good as they were last year. No. Listen, they can hit. They have 864 runs scored this year. That is 61 points higher than anybody else in the National League. But I just don't think they'll catch a lightning in a bottle multiple years in a row. Because they were a good team last year. And I will say, I think we didn't give them enough credit last year. I think the Phillies definitely collapsed. But I think the Diamondbacks were better last year than we wanted to admit.
Sure. Scrappy teams, dude, and wild card teams, right? 2 wild card teams go to the World Series. We saw it in 2022. You cannot take wild card teams lightly because anybody gets there again. But bro, give me Paul Sewald again. No shot, dude.
No, there's no shot. No
Paul
shot.
Sewald is going to show you up 2 years in a row. I don't think so, dude.
And if he does, I don't know. He won't. That's the thing. I just don't think, and listen, I don't want to face them, but if we did, I still think we would win the series. I think we're a way better team than them. We have a better lineup. We have a better rotation and a better bullpen. I will say this, a sneaky team, and I know we've had their number in the past, is absolutely the Padres. They were 50-50 at one point this season. They're now 90-66. They went on a 40-16 run since 100 games. They can hit. They definitely have good arms. That's an interesting matchup for me there.
Yeah. as far as the X factors go, when we were talking about that, I would say Ranger and Christopher Sanchez. Any of the
Yeah.
guys that you're going to get having to pitch on the road. Granted, whatever the matchup is, home and away. But if you can get one of those starters to kind of give you 6-7 innings of 1-2 run ball on the road, those kind of matchups where you're with your number 3, number 4, are going to pay dividends when you're on the road like that. So I kind of see it like that.
And Ranger's really the big one there for me, because honestly, right now, I really trust Christopher Sanchez right now. He's looked unbelievable this year. He's looked way better on the road, actually, the last few starts than he did previous this season. I also think the road numbers were a bit skewed. He had one start on the road where he allowed, I believe, like 9 earned runs to Arizona. So I don't know how much you can really take that into account. I mean, he definitely throws better at home. Like, there's no doubt about that. But I think his road numbers are a bit skewed. But Ranger's really the big one for me because you've seen how good Ranger is the last 2 years, and you have to hope, specifically in October the last 2 years, but you have to hope that October Ranger is back for a third year. Because if you can throw Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola out there, right, 1 and 2, that's the best 1-2 probably in the playoffs, I would say.
Yeah.
And then you get to a game 3 with Christopher Sanchez. If you can throw an October Ranger in a game 4 against possibly like some team's 4th starter or even a bullpen game, like there will be teams that will use an opener in a game 4. Right. So like if you can get a Ranger start against potentially an opener from a team, like that's massive. And obviously I think Ranger's arm is just a little dead. I really hope he doesn't pitch the rest of this regular season. I have a feeling they're probably going to miss his next start. I think they see it too. The velo's down, like we know. It's been a lot of innings this year, nearly like 150 now. So I think he's just hit a bit of a lull. But if you can get he had the best ERA in the playoffs in the history of baseball at one point last year. If you can get that back, I mean that's freaking massive, man.
Yeah, dude, it's like I was saying with these matchups. As far as on the NL side, anybody that you don't want to play for me, I think it's the Mets. I don't want to see the Mets. I think it's one of those teams. Not saying that they're better. They have a lot of wonky, weird shit, dude. The whole fucking grimace thing and.
That shit pisses me off.
All that other weird stuff that they rally around is kind of like, it's just so like quirky and weird. And then we saw how we played them during their last series, and it's just one of those things. It's like very close to home. It's a series that you think, oh, we shouldn't worry about it. It's those series that I'm just like, I don't really want to play the Mets.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. Ideally I wouldn't want to see the Mets, I don't think. But at the same time, I also think we would just get to a series and beat them. And I don't take much stock, and I know this is weird to say, I don't take a ton of stock into that last series. I do and I don't. I think the Mets definitely 100% outplayed us. But I just think if you get to October and you get the Phillies a lead and home field advantage, I just don't see that Mets squad coming back and winning. Like I don't see that happening. There's also a chance the Mets still don't get in. They have a huge series starting tonight against the Braves. So I believe Braves are 2 back of them right now. So hey man, if the Braves would possibly sweep, then they would take it. Here's my thing. I have a question for you. Would you rather face Atlanta or the Mets in the playoffs?
Now you're gonna kind of make me eat my words, I guess. Because I guess I'd rather see the Mets. I wouldn't want to see so maybe I was wrong then up front.
I think I'm right. I think I'm right there with you.
Does that make sense though? Now that
yes, it does.
Like that?
No, it does. It absolutely does.
because that was just the first thing that my mind goes to is like, fuck the Mets, and they got this weird kind of excitement and juju around them or whatever. Like they're like, we're making a push, and that's, you don't want these like a motivated team. But then you say the Braves, and then you go down their lineup, and you're like, no thanks.
Yeah, because that's also a weird scenario though, because like, say hypothetically the Braves swept the Mets, took their spot, took 2 or 3 from Kansas City, got into the playoffs, ran through a wild card round, and then had to come to Philadelphia. That's scary. That's a little scary. The fact that they would probably win 8 or 9 of 11, something like that would concern me a bit. And I still think the Phillies would win. But I will say this, if the Braves get in, their pitching staff is set up really well for a series, right? Mm-hmm. Chris Sale, Max Fried, Schwellenbach, right? They have he's a monster, dude. He's really
He's
good.
Another guy that's like, where the hell did he come from?
Exactly. And just like another guy that feels like a guy, and I know I've said this in the past about Braves, and then we've just absolutely rocked them. But he feels like a guy that would thrive in October.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I think I would. I don't want to play the Mets, but I would rather play the Mets than the Braves.
Yeah, I mean, because there's obviously a lot more talent there. It's just like that weird juju stuff that I see, and we want to keep your mustache, Luke. Right? We don't need another bet.
Oh no, it's not going anywhere. Don't worry.
Did he shave his? Beard?
He did. He didn't post it, but he sent it to us. He shaved it. He did.
Okay. So for you guys that don't know, Luke and Mike Powers had a bet, and for that Phillies Mets series, and if the Mets won, Luke would have to shave his mustache, and if the Phillies won, Mike had to shave his beard. I, if you have a picture, dude, I'd love to see it because
we'll put it up in the clip. We'll get it on Instagram. Don't worry.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, we want to keep that. We want to keep that stash. Luke, so I made my predictions. I like to throw it up on Twitter just so I can retweet myself when I'm either right, and I'm not going to touch it if I'm wrong. Postseason predictions. Obviously, I'm going with the Phillies, dude. Vegas has them. I think they're the third favorite behind the Dodgers and the Yankees. My World Series MVP, going back to your X Factors, Alec Boehm. Like you said, if we can get the league leader in doubles, extra base hits that we've seen all at the beginning of the season, most doubles in baseball, when you have those table setters in front of you, Trey Steele in second base, Schwarber on base, it's going to be a lot of trouble. So I can almost, I'm like weird, dude. Like I make these like stories up in my head, and I could just see like the video compilations of I fucking hate this place, and then it's just him, the World Series MVP. I could just see it like come.
It would bring a tear to my eye if that if that came true.
Yeah, so I could just like I picture that stuff. I like romanticize about. I'm like, dude, that'd be such a good one. I fucking hate this place. And it's just like I'm right over here, or whatever it is, well, now it's I've got sunshine, which fucking bangs, by the way, dude. Do not come. So yeah, I'm obviously going Phillies World Series winners. They were plus 5 something last time I checked. World Series MVP.
I believe I saw this morning they were down to like 420 or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Nice. Gotta take it, right?
Yeah, dude. I mean, obviously, bias or whatever, but they've been knocking at the door. This is going to be the third year they're knocking at the door, dude. So, it's got to be right there. So, World Series prediction, MVP. Let me hear what you got.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Phillies. Part of that is no doubt fully admitting bias, but honestly, a good portion of it isn't. I think all around right now, I think they're the best team in baseball. I think this is the most all around team they've had. They have the rotation, they have the bullpen, they have the lineup, and they have the depth. They finally have guys that if we needed to pinch hit, I believe in to get a hit. And I think that's big in October, right? I mean, there's been times the past few years where there's been some weird guys that have had to pinch hit for us. So as far as that, I think the Phillies win the World Series. As far as MVP, listen, I think it would be hard for the league not to give it to Bryce because he seems like one of those guys that if they win the series, he's kind of like a default to win the MVP. But I think it's going to be Kyle Schwarber. I think Kyle Schwarber just seems like a guy that the farther you go, the better he gets. And we've seen Schwarber in the past. The dude freaking rakes in October. I just picture Schwarber in some game 6 of the World Series at home having just some tank shot home run in the 6th inning. I just,
bet sign.
yeah, oh man, it's just an absolute rocket, gives the Phillies the lead. The place goes nuts. And all you need is just a few outs after that. God, I can't even think about that. I'm like getting anxious thinking about it right now. Man, I'll tell you this, man. I am going to be an absolute wreck if this team makes it back to the World Series.
It's all the pressure, right?
Oh, I mean, it's a thing, and it's going to be concerning based on the fan base if they get back there and they lose again. And I mean, that's also just the city we live in. This city is used to failure on the big stages. But yeah, I think the Phillies win the World Series, and I think Schwarber wins MVP. I think they play the Cleveland Guardians. I think everybody's been sleeping on Cleveland this year. I think the most likely matchup, I would say right now, and I think the script kind of wants it to be Phillies-Yankees. But listen, I think it would be an unbelievable series. But I have a weird feeling it's going to be Phillies-Guardians. So I'm going to go Phillies beat the Guardians World Series with a Schwarber World Series MVP.
Beautiful. Clip that, guys. We're clipping that for November.
Come back to me when it's the complete opposite.
No. Yeah, I think exactly. The script says Phillies Yankees. Just the firepower, the superstars, dude. You got Soto and Judge and Harper. I mean the graphics that they're going to make with those guys head to head matchups would be crazy. That's going to be my pick is the Yankees versus the Phillies rematch of '08, and we'll see how that goes. Luke, one thing I want to talk, there's a lot of stuff on this fan base, dude, right? Like, they get down really quick, dude, and I'm not used to that. I like to be positive. I don't like being negative, and I understand, you're upset and all that stuff. But one thing I think people should take into consideration and is very important as a player and as a fan is your owner. So John Middleton is one of the best owners in all of baseball, dude. And you don't get that with every organization. The White Sox, the A's. We saw John Fisher put out that bullshit statement. He doesn't want players hanging out after the game because he thinks people are going to run on the field and all this shit. So to have an owner that is actively trying to win championships is not something you should take lightly. And even as Mets fans, they've sucked and they've had terrible, Mets are going to Met, but they have a owner now who's spending money, who's willing to, fork over cash to go get guys. That is something that it makes it easier to be a fan because your owner is trying to get you what you want. So, I don't know, how you feel about John Middleton. We saw him, give me my fucking trophy. That just how excited is that?
Listen, man. It's one simple request. The guy wants his fucking trophy back. I mean, it's that easy. Nah, I mean, John Middleton's always been a very down to earth owner. There's been so many times where I've went to the Phillies game and he's just like walking around the concourse. Like he just gets it. He's a perfect owner for this city. He's willing to spend the money, right? Listen, 5-6 years ago, this organization was in a rough spot, and a 5-year transition now to having one of the highest payrolls in baseball, Bryce Harper, who actually just hit a home run as I said that, 1-0 Phillies in the first inning. Nice. I literally got that notification as I said Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper, right? Yeah, right. Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, JT Realmuto, Zach Wheeler, Aaron Nola. All those guys got basically $100 million, right? He's willing to spend this money because what he said last night is the truth. He wants his trophy back. He wants the World Series trophy back, right? That trophy deserves to be back in Philadelphia. So the Phillies are lucky to have an owner like John Middleton.
And to even go off of that, Luke, is specifics in contracts. Correct me if I'm wrong. Aaron Nola and Trey Turner also took less money to
Correct.
come play here in Philly. So think about that. You have these premier all-star players who are literally taking less money just to come to South Philly and play for the Phillies. What does that say about your organization?
Yeah, I mean it's been a thing in this city. I think a lot of these other cities that like to clown on Philadelphia for our homer takes and our absurd acting at games, right? They don't understand that it's the best city in the world. It's the best city to play in. It's when your team is good, the fan base is behind you, and when you're not, they're gonna rip into you. But they're not ripping into you because they hate you. They're ripping into you because they want you to be better, and they want you to play to how the city is set up. Like this city has a standard, and I think you're seeing it now. I mean, this sort of this elevation with the Flyers. This city's about to have 4 really good teams in it again. That hasn't happened in a while. So I think it's really awesome for this city to really embrace that, and it's awesome for an owner, and these players love playing here. I mean, you've heard these Harper interviews. Like he says, this is the best city. Like he loves playing here. He wouldn't want to play anywhere else. Hoffman last night. Exactly. Yeah. Hoffman last night says this being in this city just feels like home. Watching Carlos Estevez just smile in his entire interview last night, right? Mm-hmm. From going from the Angels to, I mean, there's an owner you can talk about right there. Yeah. Going from the Angels to coming to Philadelphia and playing in front of 45,000 people every night. Like all these guys talk about is just how great of a fan base this is. And I mean, it's pretty obvious. Like this team lost game 6 and 7 here last year, but there's not a damn stadium in the world in the playoffs like Citizens Bank Park. The link doesn't compare. Nothing compares. Like nothing compares to Phillies October baseball. And I think that's something that had to really be founded from the ground up. And I think they've done an unbelievable job of it.
And one thing to even add on to that, you know, people can say, oh, playoffs are great here, playoffs are the best here. But like you mentioned, and the Phillies put out a video today with Kruk, and he's saying, oh, October baseball, and then they show the highlights, and he goes, actually, that was from an afternoon in May. And then they show an awesome literally highlight. He goes, that was a Tuesday in July.
And dude, the amount of times this year that I tweeted those videos and I was like, this is a Tuesday night in April, or this is a Wednesday night in June. And I had all these people in the replies. They're like, go to any other fan base. This is what it looks like. That's not true. That's not even close to being true.
No.
Go watch a Cincinnati Reds game on a Wednesday night. Go watch a Pittsburgh Pirates game on a Tuesday night. They put like 20,000 people in that place. I went to a game. I believe it was the Dodgers home game because it was that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday series. And granted, it was the Dodgers, so obviously that's going to have more attendance. But it was a rainy Tuesday night against the Dodgers. There was not an open seat in that place. Like this fan base cares, and when you're good, they will be there for you every single night.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely not like that anywhere. And like, you know, I was at games earlier this year too, where it's like, hey, I'm not working. There's a 1:20 game or you know, a 3-something game on a Tuesday. It's overcast. Is it going to rain? Maybe it's going to rain. Packed, dude. 44,000 still there on a Tuesday in July, dude. Like nobody else got anything better to do. They're coming out there to support the Phillies and to see a quality product, dude. It's like I'm going to this game knowing I'm going to see Schwarber hit a fucking bomb. I'm going to see JT hit a nuke to dead center. I'm going to see, you know, Bryce Harper put on, you know, he's got the most diving plays at first base now. I just learned that today. Yeah, most diving plays. So, yeah, it's just incredible product they put on the field. Yeah, I mean, there's really not much. You got a score update for me?
Just 1-0 right now still.
Still 1-0.
1-0.
Okay. All right, Luke. Well, that was pretty much all I had. Why don't you tell everybody all your stuff, what you got coming up, where they can find you, all the places of employment you're working now?
Yeah, so I'm writing for Crossing Broad. Really, anything I post will be on Twitter at it's ARCAINI Luke, Arcaini Luke. doing some YouTube work for Phillies, some work there. Still working with the Gambler Gang. Just so we're doing a lot right now. But right now it's mainly for Crossing Broad and for the Gambler. So really just a lot of work. We're getting into the heavy hitting, the end of the season. So it's very exciting.
Good. Guys, make sure you go follow Luke, follow Crossing Broad. If you're not following us, Sheffield Shuffler, do the same. Luke, I'm going to end it. Hang around so I can say goodbye to you. But again,
Yes, sir.
thank you for coming on, talking Phils with me. And let's just keep it rolling, dude. Let's just keep putting out banging Phillies content.
Let's do it, baby.
Broad and bring home a trophy.
Let's do it, baby.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We will see you later.